जैसे शेफ्स होते हैं, दे डोंट लर्न इन कॉलेज, दे लर्न कि हाँ कटिंग ऐसे करते हैं, सफाई ऐसे करते हैं, बट एक्चुअल इंस्पिरेशन तो उनको दूसरे शेफ्स को देख के ही आती है, राइट?
True, true.
So that is how the entire film industry also works. You don't learn anything in colleges.
Hey there, my name is Porush, and I'm back with another episode of the Long Live Cinema Show, where I try to host a series of conversations with folks who don't just love the art of storytelling but are also the creative practitioners of this art form in their own ways. And today we have with us Parth Vyas, who has worked as an associate editor for a lot of TVF shows like Sandeep Bhaiya, Hostel Days, Permanent Roommates Season 3, and more. This is a great conversation where we talk about what exactly is the role of an associate editor in filmmaking. And if you want to know more about the world of editing, you are definitely going to love this conversation. So sit back, relax, and let's start the show. Just to start with, how are you doing? How's everything going on?
Yeah, I'm great. How are you?
All well, all well. Anything that you just checked off from your watch list? Any show, any movie?
Well, I just wanted. I have stopped watching a lot of things lately
Okay.
because it have become like वो जो content saturation हो गया है ना, हो गया है मेरे को. So I generally मेरा time pass includes YouTube only. Like I just either learn from YouTube or just do time pass on YouTube. But अभी Good Omens का season 2 आया है.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I'm rewatching Good Omens again because I really like Neil Gaiman's shows. Like Good Omen है, Sandman है, are really good shows, well written shows, and it's a fantasy show that I'm not despising. Like it's not like it's generic fantasy. It's not. I'm more into fantasy, high fantasy drama and everything, but it's not like I have. I'm getting saturated with that genre also. But Neil Gaiman is bringing something new every time, so I like that show. So Good Omens is literally अभी मैंने वो खत्म किया Bombay Meri Jaan.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah, that I liked. It's a good show, nicely edited.
Yes. Nice. Yes. So just you mentioned in the beginning itself that you worked as an associate editor for Panchayat and a lot more other projects.
I'm sorry. Are you okay with the train sounds? Because I live next to the station, so train sounds so angry.
This itself is very cinematic. No worries. So so okay. So like you just mentioned in the beginning that you are an associate editor for Panchayat and for other projects as well. So just for starters, I want to know like what is the difference between an assistant editor, an associate editor, and if I'm please correct me if I'm wrong, but there is also someone called the lead editor, because when I spoke to Antara Lahiri, she mentioned that she's a lead editor. Her position is lead editor. So can you just give like a quick demarcation between associate, assistant, and lead editor?
So I have never heard of lead editor because
Okay.
I'm still not up there that
Okay.
I was. But what I think Antara might have meant is that so assistant editor is very normal thing. It's like the lowest bar where you start. You learn some things there. Basically, you are doing things like sorting and syncing footage that comes in. You're making timelines. You're making markers. You're comparing log sheets. Jo we call them log sheets. There are different versions of words for the same thing.
Sure.
So log sheets are basically recorded. How do I say it? It's a record of all the footage that's captured, right? So basically, कौन से कैमरा में कौन से कार्ड में कौन सा क्लिप नंबर है, all of that is recorded in log sheet. So what the assistant editor's job is, you take that record, you compare it with what the footage you've got, actual footage. And if there is a discrepancy, you call the other assistant directors, ADs and people, or mostly it is just continuity guy who is also the AD. Most of the time in smaller shows, AD is the guy who is first. It's not the first AD, but it's around the AD guy who is doing the continuity thing also. So you call that person, you ask them, is this footage shot or not shot? Where is it? It has been lost. वो सब scramble करके you create this entire timeline that needs to be delivered to the editor or the associate editor. If there is an associate on the show, it gets delivered to the associate. It's not just timelines, it's also sorting of footage, different folders, पूरा folder structure बना के. So basically the start of every project happens from assistant editor. It's like gathering all the raw materials and then giving this entire block of raw materials to this associate editor, who is now वो जो अभी ऐसा छान के उसमें से कुछ product बनाएगा. ठीक है. Then we come to associate editor, who is basically a middle person between an assistant and an editor. An associate varies in skills. Like there are people who just start as an associate, or there are people who have accomplished as an associate and still remain associate, because associate editors are basically editors. Like you're not only making lineups, you're also editing the footage. So difference between lineup and an edit is that lineup is basically putting the shots one after the other जो script में लिखा है. If the script says कि I'm talking to you and we have two camera angles and the footage is two camera angles and a wide angle, then you are like a lineup is like ये मेरा dialogue बोल रहा है मेरा shot, तुम्हारा dialogue बोल रहा है तुम्हारा shot, एक wide shot दिख रहा है, that is lineup. It's basic. There is no edit there. Edit happens when an associate or an editor takes charge. It's basically creating a flow जो कभी भी इतना आसान नहीं होता है एक flow करना, because there are different types of flow. There is a scene का flow, then there is this location based flow के इस location पे ये scene हो रहा है तो कितना fast होना चाहिए यहाँ पे. यहाँ पे montage भी है, फिर scene भी आएगा और ये तो तीन चीज मिलके भी एक flow बनना चाहिए. You shouldn't feel like starting में बहुत fast हो गया, बीच में slow हो गया वापस, which you might have seen in lot of shows and films that are really rushed out. They have like this thing where you sometimes feel very bored in this middle part. Then suddenly ekdam action picks up and you are really pacing up. You can't keep up with the footage. So वो सब flow maintain करना is the editor's job. But उससे पहले associate editor, what he does is create an edit good enough as a first cut. Okay. So a first cut is something you can display to the director, or if the producer is really involved and he wants to see it, you can send that first cut to the producer. This is what we have. ये अपना अच्छा सा story है, ठीक है. इस पे editor काम करेगा. But this is the story. It should be good enough as an edit. It should not be a lineup. A lineup is nothing basically. A lineup is just starting to cook. An associate basically brings in all the masala, and editor का काम बस ये है कि वो मसाला सब डाल दिया, टेस्ट करो, अच्छा खाना बनना चाहिए. Now there is a reason editors do less job. Okay, so let's say कि assistants, अगर let's say 6 महीने का project है तो assistant is there for a full 6 months. Okay, because he's not just sorting, syncing and everything, he also knows where all of the footage is, where all of the data is, how is it segregated, everything he knows. So अगर कुछ भी गड़बड़ हो रहा है तो you have to ask the assistant कि कहाँ है चीजें, and he has to point out. And then generally what happens with assistants is that they stay throughout the project because exports भी देने होते हैं. Exports is basically sending out the everything that has been edited, sending it out to different departments. Like the VFX artist, the music guy, the sound guy, the SFX guy, there are different departments for everything. And all of the technical thing that happens that you see in the film, visual and audio, it happens after the edit is locked. But the processes start before. So assistant की जरूरत बीच में भी होती है. जैसे मैंने एक scene edit कर लिया है and वो scene अभी अच्छा बन गया है, but मेरे को scene producer है किसी को दिखाना है, तो then you have to send that scene to the sound guy कि भाई इसका sound clean करके दे, इसका then वो contract बना हुआ ही होता है. You have to send it to them. अगर VFX थोड़ा at least वो जो first draft of VFX थोड़ा previous है या कुछ है वो डाल के देते, but they did because we want to show this package to the person who's investing the money, right? And he doesn't want to see एक slate जिस पे लिखा हुआ है VFX pending करके, right? At least because he doesn't know what's coming out to him and he has to sell that thing to other people. So इसीलिए so editor का job basically ये था supervise all of these things, right? And once the associate is done, then the editor sits and editor basically creates this entire story. So assistant does all the technical junk things, associate creates scenes, and editor creates the entire story. Editor has no interest in knowing के ये वाला सीन का ये वाला नंबर का क्या चीज हो रहा है, बेसिकली के इसका इनपुट कैसा है, इसका मेटा डेटा क्या है. Editor has no interest because it's not their thing to do. Their job is to make sure कि तुम जो देख रहे हो वो come close to perfect हालत में, कि इससे अच्छा कुछ कर नहीं सकते हम लोग. This is the story. You should be engaged as an audience to the story, and that job is of the editor, and later editor and director together. There is also this level called supervising editor, which has been, which is a thing now. Most of the South films and all the shows have it. Most of पहले US में बहुत पहले से ही है, like because US had this format where every episode is directed by a different director and ऐसा सब, right? You will always see a different director in same series season के सारे episodes में अलग अलग directors होते हैं, so उनके editors भी अलग अलग होते हैं. So supervising editor and supervising director and showrunner ये सब लोग क्या करते हैं कि they make everything cohesive, कि भाई फर्स्ट एपिसोड का जो फ्लो है वही सेकंड में भी है, फिर सेकंड में अलग एडिटर ने किया तो उसका मतलब ये नहीं कि अलग ही फ्लो चल रहा है. बिकॉज एट द एंड ऑफ द डे यू एज एन ऑडियंस आर बिंज वाचिंग और यू रिमेंबर व्हाट हैपेंड इन द फर्स्ट एपिसोड, सो यू शुड नॉट गेट लॉस्ट कि ये मैं दूसरा कोई मूवी देख रहा हूँ क्या, ऐसा दूसरा शो तो चालू नहीं हो गया ऐसा. सो सुपरवाइजिंग एडिटर बेसिकली डज दैट. ही हैज अ लॉट ऑफ प्रोजेक्ट्स अंडर हिज हैंड, and then what he does is passes his comments or actually sits on them, but make sure that everything that goes out of the edit table is perfect.
Right.
I don't know how cohesive answers I gave you, but yeah,
this is as cohesive. No, this is as cohesive as it could get. And have you always wanted to get into editing, like as a career?
No, for a career. So for a career, I was always a gamer. I still am a gamer. I'm a gamer. I love stories that games tell you. So like things like Assassin's Creed, God of War, or even Alan Wake करके एक game थी. Like games that tell you stories that immerse you in that world. So मेरे को games से इतना inspire हो गया था कि I wanted to get into VFX and CGI because that's my first thing. 3D models and ये सब चीज. Like मेरे को literally VFX की technical knowledge इसीलिए है because I have researched a lot into it, because I was very interested in doing it. So I applied for it. There was this institution in Germany. I applied Pixel Vision करके. I applied for it. I wanted to do CGI and VFX thing, even if it's just mocks or trailers and stuff like that. But I still wanted to do it. Transformers was a huge inspiration for me. Michael Bay का. Right. You know, when I don't know if you have seen those in theaters.
I have just seen one part, which is Dark of the Moon, क्योंकि उससे पहले I don't think, like, the place where I live, the release was not as prominent. So so I stay in Delhi NCR, and in the area that I live, वहाँ पे उतना like Hollywood films का नहीं था. So the very first Transformers film that I watched in theater was Dark of the Moon.
So Dark of the Moon is still recent, like 2016 or something, right?
Yeah.
But it's like, that's not the good part of Transformers films. Like, I like the Transformers trilogy. Uske baad ke Transformers are just milking the franchise and stuff like that.
Right.
But by that time, CGI has developed a lot. Like, VFX, not just, you don't see extremely good CGI just in Transformers films. You see this in different films also. But I'm talking about Transformers 1 that came out, and it blew me away because at that time, doing this complex CGI, I read about it. They were like, they had to rent a render farm for about 2-3 months just to render Optimus Prime in the first movie. Like, entire render farm was just rendering Optimus Prime, not even the environment, just the 3D model. It was that detailed. And all of those things blew me away. So I wanted to do CGI effects, but ठीक है, like पैसे की problems की वजह से I couldn't go. So one of my friend came to me and he said that he's starting wedding business and he likes my editing. I used to do a little bit of editing before also, self-learned, Premiere Pro पे करके. And he said that if you want to join in, let me know. So I said, I'm not doing anything, let me join. So I used to edit weddings. Wedding अपना जो चल रहा है, the style that's going on recently. I used to do that in 2016, 2017 to 2019. I did 3 years of wedding edits. One of my best friends told me that you're wasting your talent, you're wasting your abilities just editing this shitty wedding footages, right? And because I used to do low level wedding, it was not even good footage. It was like bad footage. He's like, why are you doing this? Just come to Mumbai. There's so much opportunity here. There's so much things to do here. And I'm like, I was always not feeling it, not coming to Mumbai. And I don't like Mumbai as a city. It it gives you this feeling that you're alone, right? And I don't like it. So I never wanted to come to Mumbai, but I came eventually. थोड़े life में changes आ गए. So I came, I got into a relationship, and I was like, ठीक है, let's go to Mumbai, let's work harder, let's earn more, you know. So I came to Mumbai. I found the first thing I did was 100, Lara Datta and Iswara. So उसमें I started as assistant, and that's where I first time in my life touched a Mac and also FCP. Both at the same time, first time. I still remember Tushar Parekh was the editor of 100. I still remember Tushar sir. He was holding his head like this because I don't know Mac and I don't know FCP. Like edit कैसा होता है? Edit is like the same thing whatever software you use. It's just cutting the shot, right? But it's about knowing the software, like knowing the shortcuts, knowing the things that makes your thing faster. Like mouse से कोई edit नहीं करता है. Everyone edits with the keyboard. Right? Mouse is just to bring the cursor here and there. That's it. But I was the person who would drag clips with mouse. ऐसा mouse से ऐसा पकड़ के इधर रख के उधर रख के ऐसा. That's how I used to edit wedding. So there was a lot of things that I learned in FCP. I don't use FCP. I don't like it. I still do Premiere. But I learned a lot of editing things. I learned how it's called rushes. The footage that comes into it, it's called rushes. It's not called footage. Because I remember the director of Ruchi Narayan was the director of 100. So Ruchi sits here, and that day Tushar didn't come. So Ruchi was like, show me the rushes. And I am completely lost. I have no idea what to show to her. What is rushes? And then she got so irritated that she's like, "अरे बाबा footage इसका वो वाला जो ये scene का footage कहाँ है ऐसा?" And just such a pedestrian language that I understood. Okay, I have to get on top of my game. I have to understand these things, this entire process, this workflow that goes through it. So that's how I came into editing. Basically, I wanted to CGI and VFX, but this is a similar field. Like I did like editing. I do like how when you put a cut in a footage, it changes the story. Like instantly you change the flow, instantly you change the story. So you have to learn where to put the cut. Like, and it is all with your feelings. This is not a technical thing. Technical thing ऐसा होता है क्या ऐसे वाला आंख बंद करके कट नहीं करने का. Like if the face of the person you are showing, उसका आंख frame पे बंद हो गया है, तो don't cut there. Let him open his eyes or cut previous. Because you'll notice it while watching. ऐसा बंद हो गया. It's a jarring effect. That's all flow things. But वो सब technical है. But the way you create a story is through feeling, through knowing what the character is. So basically, editor has to understand the writer's perspective, the director's perspective, all of those things. But I really like that part, and that's why I still am pursuing, I guess.
No,
I could have ended up.
No, that's great because, like you just mentioned, कि one cut can change the entire meaning of the story. I mean, had मतलब अगर वही है कि इंसेप्शन में लास्ट में अगर टोटम गिरने के बाद कट आता वर्सेस जब तक टोटम चल रहा है तो उसी टाइम पे कट कर दिया. And I guess one of the examples that I can remember of this eye opening wala cheese in Avatar. So the movie starts with the opening of an eye, part 1. I'm talking about part 1. And it starts from the opening of the eye. And then it ends with the same opening of the eye.
Yeah.
But by the end of the film, he has given up. He truly becomes a citizen. Yeah, he truly becomes that person. and leaves his human body.
Navi, Navi.
Yeah, yes. He becomes a Navi. I'm going to get so much of trolling, I cannot tell you, but yes.
Yeah, that's why I corrected you. I'm like, wait, I have to make sure that he knows
it. Thank you, man. Thank you. Like I said, like I told you in the beginning, I'm in good hands.
Edit it out.
Yeah. So, how do you, like, as an editor, how do you come on board on a project? How are you contacted, and how do you become a part of a project?
Man, that is something that is, I feel like it's mostly luck based and knowing the right people. For example, I got 100 in 2019. Okay. Usse pehle I had no work. For 6 months when I came to Mumbai, I had no work. And I was getting bored, I was getting irritated. I already didn't like the city. But यहाँ पे कुछ काम भी नहीं था. I was spending, and I'm from good enough family. I'm not saying I'm upper middle class or anything. I come from a good family. So I have been a bit spoiled and pampered, right? So I was living in this 15,000 per month shared room. I was sharing a room at 25th floor with my friend in 15,000 per month. And without any consequences, I was just paying the rent. I was using my credit card, as all people do. Like, I was just filling up my credit card, eating junk food and everything. And I was getting bored and I really wanted to work. And I thought that if I come to Mumbai, I'll get work immediately. But that's not how it is. मैं तो यहाँ पे प्रभा देवी पे I went to गणपति मंदिर and I was like, भगवान please थोड़ा सा मेरे कुछ कर दे. And you will not believe it. As soon as I stepped out of the temple, I got a call from my friend saying कि एक listing आया है, assistant editor चाहिए, emergency है. Okay. And trust me, emergency है is a thing in the industry. Okay. Assistant editors चाहिए ही, कभी भी चाहिए randomly. Emergency होता है हमेशा. So emergency है करके, I'm like ठीक है. And it was nearby the temple, so I was like, I just went there. That's where I met Tushar sir, and वो भी पूरी story है. कभी मिलेंगे तो I'll tell you that entire story. It's a different story altogether. Not enough time we have for that.
Sure.
So that's where I got my first job, and that's why I learned a lot of things. And this industry performs differently from what I knew the wedding industry is. So, but वहाँ पे there was an additional editor whose name is Harshit Sharma, who has edited Made in Heaven, and if you know the film Jamun.
Yes, I've heard the name.
Yeah, he has edited that film, and he's a with him I worked a lot. So that's where I met him, and he liked my edits. So उसके बाद तो कोविड आ गया 2020 में तो. So 20 में जब सितंबर में कोविड खुला, he got this project from TVF known as Hotstar season 2.
Yeah.
Okay. And he called me. He said, "I have this project. Do you want to be an associate on it?" And I was like, "Okay." I have done the least amount of assistant, and I'm directly one project I did assistant, and straight up I've been associate. I'm like, okay. But TVF, how it works is they don't have an assistant and associate in this kind of thing. They have like an assistant associate. Now, jo associate hai, that's the guy who is also doing the assistant thing. It's like this thing that happens inside the industry. Like बाहर कुछ भी नाम दो, अंदर ऐसा सब चलता है. Okay. So that's how I got with Harshit, and being with Harshit had helped me a lot because I also not only improved as an editor, because Harshit would not ask me for a scene. कि मेरे को ये scene दे दे. Generally, what happens is all editors have their own style of working. Okay, some editors want full control over it so that they don't give anything. They are like कि मेरे को ये scene करके दे दे, ये scene मैं भी as an associate मैं भी edit करूँगा, and then editor भी edit करेगा. So बहुत सारा refinement. It's that process. Every process is different. Harshit का process is very different for me. He's like he asked me for this entire episode. तो मेरे को पूरा episode पे तू काम करके मेरे को दे दे. So give me this entire edited episode. Then he watches that episode and then gives his feedback. कि ये अच्छा नहीं था, मजा नहीं आया, ये अच्छा नहीं था, ये अच्छा था, ये वाला पार्ट सही था. And it's really honestly, अगर कभी डांट पड़ती है ना, it is much better than a disappointing face.
Yeah.
Okay. Like, and I have disappointed him many times. I'm not going to be lying about it. Like, I would see his face and it is not happy. It is not there. And then he takes over and he's like, मैं कर लूँगा, तू आगे वाला काम कर दे ऐसे. But that's how I learned. I really like that. That's how he has taught me, because I have learned to edit. I have not learned to edit a scene कि आप एक scene निकाल के दे. I learned to edit these entire episodes of a series, which is a completely different thing than editing a scene. एक scene edit करना versus 2 scene edit करना साथ में is a different thing. 2 scene के बीच में एक transition भी चाहिए कि यहाँ से निकल के वहां कैसे जाए. वो shoot होके नहीं आता है. That you have to do as an editor. कि जब पूरा episode बन रहा है तो ऐसा नहीं लगना चाहिए 10 scene है. एक episode लगना चाहिए. तो वो सब चीजें as an editor you have to learn, and I learned it very early on from Harshit. So, but I always worked with Harshit, so most of my work is from Harshit only. So I have been contacted a few times. I have worked recently with Gaurav Jha, Gullak, and I worked on Kacche. You know this series came out, United Kacche karke.
Yes.
Yeah, on that I worked as an associate, and abhi permanent roommates aane wala hai. On that I worked as an associate with Gaurav Jha. So I've gotten a few calls from outside people, but most of my work came from Harshit. So I never really had to juggle or struggle for work. Sorry, not juggle. Struggle for work, which is like a contact karo logo ko. But I think the way you get contacted as an associate or assistant is you keep asking people to, like, you go through the directory of films and then you find editors and you're like, I want to work with you and stuff like that. Or you go to Instagram, socials, LinkedIn, stuff like that. LinkedIn doesn't really work, but socials just work. And you just end up, it's like you do not reject work, first of all. You're not an editor. Do not reject work. That's what I say to myself. Okay? You can't say, nahi, main ye nahi karunga. Kyunki it's come to you in front of, like, तूने मांगा भी नहीं है, तेरे पास आया है, why would you reject? That is what my policy is. So far I have not had to go around asking for work. Work has come to me, which is really great thing. Like, people tell me I'm very lucky that work has come to me so fast, because there are few of my friends who have failed and have gone back to hometown Baroda and they're like, hey, yaar nahi ho raha hai. तेरे पास काम कैसे आ रहा है, मेरे को समझ नहीं आ रहा है. And I'm like, I don't know. I have not really done anything to get it. It has just come to me. So for the question about how do you get contacted, I feel like in general what happens is you know people. For example, now I know a lot of assistants, now I know a lot of associates. So अगर मेरे को कोई मेरा friend बोल रहा है कि यार मैं कोई associate ढूंढ रहा हूँ, so I send them some numbers I know. That person then contacts. So it is all word of mouth. Okay. All of it. Yeah, it is like कि अगर तुम नया hire ही कर रहे हो, जैसे कोई production house hire कर रहा है, तो then you will send your IMDb and ये वो, but doesn't really matter because IMDb में क्या है ना, IMDb में सिर्फ नाम है, and IMDb में कोई department नहीं है. जैसे कि तुमने अगर पंचायत में काम किया है as an assistant, तो तुमने पंचायत में as an assistant काम किया, but तुमने एक ही महीना काम किया होगा, which is not even full duration of पंचायत. But ठीक है, तुम्हारा नाम आ गया. So you don't know how much work that person has done or what quality of work that person has done. So it is all word of mouth. मतलब मैं फिर तेरे को फोन करके पूछूंगा कि अरे ये वाला नंबर तूने भेजा था, कैसा है वो? That's how background check वो ऐसे ही हो जाता है.
Right, and it relies a lot on कि मतलब मेरी कितनी credibility है. मतलब अगर मैं किसी को रेफर कर रहा हूँ तो फिर मैं अगर पूछ रहा हूँ उस बारे में, सो आई विल मेक श्योर कि नहीं, मैंने जिसको रेकमेंड किया है वो एक अच्छा एसोसिएट या असिस्टेंट है एंड वो इंसान हेल्प कर पाएगा या कर पाएगा.
Yeah, this reminds me. So about 2 years ago, Harshit told me that मेरा काम अभी ऐसा है ना कि it has no consistency. It is like कभी बहुत अच्छा एपिसोड दे देता है, कभी इतना खराब दे देता है. वैसे सब इस हालत में तो मैं तेरे को किसी को रेकमेंड भी नहीं कर सकता. I can't recommend you. And it hurt hearing that because I have worked for a year with him, and in a year I should have improved a lot, but I didn't. And when he said that, it really stung me. कि वो मेरे को recommend नहीं कर सकता किसी को कि ये वाला मेरा associate है, इसको कर लो. And that really like pinched me. वैसा हाला कि okay, that this is something I should keep a mind for. So yeah, it is all recommendation based. It is all call based. Assistants कैसा होता है ना, it is just technical knowledge, so you can hire anyone. But associates and editors are like all recommendation based.
Right. Before I move ahead, मैं एक बार बस पूछना चाह रहा हूँ कि for how long can you be here? Because it's going to be 4 p.m. right now when we are recording this. So, and we've already
Yes.
like spoken for half an hour. So, how long can you be here on the call?
I can be here for. You tell me how much you need me for.
Honestly, there is still a lot of questions pending, but I
Yeah,
just
but
want
we
to
can
know.
also do it like two parts as well. Like I can come tomorrow or something like that if you like.
I mean, if that's not a problem for me,
It's not a
we can.
problem.
So, how about we do this till 4:30,
Yeah,
and then we can do a part two of this whenever you are available.
sure, we can do that.
Great. So, all right. So now I'm very curious ki since you have worked on shows which have come out on which have released on both OTT and YouTube. So I'm just curious ki is there any
No, I have
difference?
never worked on any show that has come
Okay.
out on YouTube.
Okay. So Sandeep Bhaiya may have you have worked, right?
I did an episode
Yeah.
as an associate, but yeah, okay, yeah. That's the
It,
actually I just remember that's the only YouTube I've done.
yeah. So that's what I'm asking कि YouTube और OTT के लिए edit करते समय is there any difference at all in terms of the workflow, in terms of rendering it differently क्योंकि YouTube का compression अलग तरीके से होता है. Is there any kind of difference in the way you edit for a particular platform?
So edit first I want to clarify to
Yeah.
you specifically.
Yeah.
Specifically is that edit is a different thing, rendering exports is a different department.
Okay.
So basically see, what used to be the case was YouTube के लिए तो DSLR पे shoot करके कर लेते थे, right? But especially TVF, which is now an established production house, they don't shoot a DSLR video on YouTube and upload it.
Right.
Okay. Even if it's a YouTube show जैसे संदीप भैया है or like aspirants or whatever YouTube show they all do it professionally. Like they have red cameras, RE cameras, and professional lighting. This entire team, it is pretty much as big as a team as an OTT.
Right.
Okay, including in the edit. Okay. They don't really differentiate between their productions कि like मेरा OTT पे जा रहा है तो ये production और मेरा YouTube पे जा रहा है तो ये production. Because they know their roots, they came from YouTube, they know it's important place to be. So that's why. Now when it comes to editing, so do you want to know the workflow? I'll tell you the workflow how it goes.
Sure.
Okay. So I told you about how assistants get this footage from the set, right? Everyday footage comes, you have to sync, sort, and do stuff, manage it. This footage is first converted by a DIT on set.
Yeah.
And that converted footage comes on the edit table. Okay. Because we don't have software that can edit RE footages. Nobody edits it. Everyone creates proxies. These are called proxy footage. So whenever you're editing, you're not thinking about कि ये show YouTube पे जाने वाला है, ये show OTT पे जाने वाला है. It is a media you have in front of you. You have to edit it in the best possible way. That is the only psychology that is being used while editing. There is no such thing. Yeah, there is things like अगर brand कोई involved है, because YouTube है तो of course is free. So उसका पैसा के लिए they are going to brands के लिए Whisper है या some brand they are going. So brand will be like कि हमारा product integrate करना है, तो वो लोग director and writer story में ही implement कर देते हैं.
Correct.
तो वो तो सिर्फ तुमको एज अ सेट एडिट करना है, बट वो इट्स ओके, दैट इज नॉट मच ऑफ अ थिंग. वो तो बाद में भी एडिटर विल कम एंड बीइंग लाइक नहीं ये शॉट लगा लो बिकॉज़ ब्रांड का शॉट है तो ये चाहिए बस. इवन इफ इट डजंट मेक स्टोरी वाइज, इट्स अ फ्री शो, इट्स अ यूट्यूब शो, यू हैव टू एडिट इट, यू हैव टू पुट इट इन बिकॉज़ ब्रांड ने पैसा दिया. बट अदरवाइज देयर इज नो as such discerning difference between editing for a film, editing for a YouTube show, editing for OTT. There is no difference. It's an edit. अगर तुम्हारा शो YouTube पे जा रहा है बट वो अच्छा एडिट नहीं हुआ होगा तो कोई नहीं देखने वाला, लोग बोर हो जाएंगे. It doesn't matter. Right. And when it comes to rendering, it is a completely different department. वो generally होता है from DI. DPX बनता है या फिर YouTube OTT के लिए हाई रेज 4K 8K फाइल्स बनती है जो फिर जैसे OTT है तो जो प्लेटफॉर्म वाले हैं वो लोग ही मांगते हैं कि हमको ये रेजोल्यूशन होगी, उनका खुद का वो सॉफ्टवेयर वाला चीज होता है कि हमको ये सॉफ्टवेयर में इतना रेजोल्यूशन, इतना DPI ये सब चाहिए, वो उनका सब होता है. टेक्निकल नॉलेज है, इट इज फॉर द कॉन्फर्मिस्ट एंड DIT पर, सॉरी, post production supervisor and post production team to look out for. It has nothing to do with edit. So rendering, but because I have learned about YouTube a lot, when you render for YouTube, all you have to do is keep a high bitrate. You don't keep like a low bitrate because high bitrate में ज़्यादा clarity आता है. More data is stored in the video. Of
Right.
course, it takes. Then YouTube applies its own compression, so it doesn't matter in the end. But yeah, rendering and it is different. When it comes to editing, there is no difference between editing for OTT or YouTube.
Got it. So, I was watching this clip by IMDb. उन्होंने post किया था with they did like a small interview segment with the editor of Rocky Rani की प्रेम कहानी, and he was just mentioning कि while I was editing the film and Karan Johar was very open with the ideas that I used to pitch with my edits and my cuts. So I just want to know कि from your experience, how difficult or easy it is to convey or convince the creators or the makers of the show or a film whether they should keep a cut or a version of the editor's cut that you have done. बहुत ज़्यादा convincing लगती है कि नहीं ये मैंने ऐसे किया है, या फिर they are always open to suggestions and always asking you to yes please go ahead, show whatever the best you can come up with.
So like this is a very situation based question, right?
Okay.
There are people who are very open to the editors because in general what an editor's motto should be is that he should provide his own vision to the edit, to the story. Okay, कि ये सब footage मैंने देखा, मैंने script पढ़ी है, ये सब footage है, this is what I see makes the best sense, and this is the most engaging and most intriguing way of telling this story. Then whether the director agrees with you or not, that is a मतलब डायरेक्टर पर बेस करता है कि उसको पसंद आया या नहीं, उसको आइडिया पसंद आया नहीं, because of course director has his own vision, he has shot it, right? So he has his own vision, he is like कि नहीं मैंने ये सोचा था इसके बारे में ये वो. But there are a lot of directors, for example गर्ल्स हॉस्टल का जो डायरेक्टर है चाणक्य कुंभकोणम, he was very open with her. She is like मुझे बहुत पसंद आया ये सब चीजें ये वो, because a lot of the times a director has a lot of things on his mind. Okay, सिर्फ ऐसा नहीं है कि उसको सिर्फ शूट कर देना है बाकी सब एडिट कर लेगा, वैसा नहीं है. He has been there since the preparation of the show until the end of the deliverables, right? And there's a lot of things on his mind, while editor is the person who has only one thing on his mind, which is telling this story. He doesn't have to worry about कि VFX कैसा होगा, या मेरे को क्या चाहिए म्यूजिक में, या मेरे को क्या चाहिए साउंड में. Of course you can give references के I am thinking of this music, I am thinking of this sound effect here, but वो सब चीजें क्या है बाद में टेक्निकली भी चेंज हो सकती है, क्योंकि BGM of course बनने वाला है बाद में, sound effects बनने वाले. All of these technical things does not matter. All he has on his mind is कि मैं ये story intriguing वैसे कैसे present करूँ, and that is why editors are an important step in this process of filmmaking, because तब डायरेक्टर को एक दूसरा विजन मिलता है कि जो उसने देखा भी नहीं होता है कभी, ये सोचा भी नहीं होता है, ओ फक ये भी एडिट कर सकते हैं ऐसे, यार ये बहुत अच्छा है, ये रखते हैं. बट जनरली अ लॉट ऑफ देम आर एक्सेप्टेबल, लाइक हाँ ये रखते हैं, but थोड़ा बहुत, and then it's an understood, like there is this sophistication that I have noticed between editor and director, which is like mostly Harshit I've seen, which is like you talk to them, directors and producers, slowly and explain to them why this makes sense versus why they say it don't make sense. And how you do that is कि तुम्हारा edit तो तुमने बना ही लिया है, but when the director says कि नहीं मैंने ये सोचा था ये करना है, you do it, and you don't do it out of spite कि ऐसा करके दे देता हूँ. It's like you do it with the same willingness you did your own edit. you make as polished as possible and you show it and then you explain कि मेरे को अभी भी पुराना वाला अच्छा लग रहा है, let's discuss कि यार मेरे को ये अच्छा है, किस वजह से अच्छा नहीं लग रहा है, क्योंकि स्टोरी में ये चीज हो रही है और उसके बाद ये आना सेंस नहीं बन रहा है, ये निकाल देते हैं, ये डिलीट कर देते हैं on the edit table, remove this scene, you don't need, and फिर then the director agrees or disagrees, फिर वही डिफरेंट इटरेशंस बनते हैं, वर्जन्स बनते रहते हैं, लाइक एक वर्जन में ये सीन रहता है, दूसरे वर्जन में वो सीन नहीं होता है, एंड देन वी शो इट टू पीपल कि कौन सा वाला तुमको लगा कैरेक्टर ग्रोथ बेटर है विदाउट दिस सीन और विद दिस सीन, वैसा सब. इट्स लाइक, सो एडिट इज फुल्ली फीडबैक बेस्ड. ओके, you show it to your peers, like डायरेक्टर अपने एक आध फ्रेंड को दिखा देगा, देख नहीं कैसा है, बढ़िया है क्या, वैसा. So it's like a lot of feedback comes in, mostly comes from, and then director वो feedback छान लेता है कि like नहीं ये सब बेकार feedback है, ये सब बकवास है, ये वाला एक अच्छा लग रहा है, ये change कर लेते हैं. And then because you are an editor and you are not a director, you comply with that कि हाँ ठीक है चल कर लेते हैं. But there are certain things, because your name is also getting attached as an editor, you need to make sure कि what goes out is, कोई जाके ये ना बोलेगा यार ये क्या edit, right? And that is only in the industry. Like if you are the industry person, like you are a director looking for your editor for your next film, and I send you I send you an IMDb profile and you see one of the movies that I have edited and you are like ये क्या edit है, right? वो नहीं होना चाहिए. So उस चीज के लिए you fight as an editor कि नहीं ये तो मैं नहीं करने वाला, ये मजा नहीं आ रहा है, ये गारंटी नहीं अच्छा है, मैं नहीं करूंगा, ये मत करो, ये बेकार कर रहा है सिर्फ. यूज व्हाटएवर वर्ड्स दैट आर सॉफ्ट, नॉट के ये जैसा है, डोंट यूज दोस काइंड ऑफ वर्ड्स, यूज सॉफ्ट वर्ड्स, आस्क देम के यू नो दिस इज नॉट द वे इट शुड बी, दिस इज द वे इट शुड नॉट, राइट? सो यू फाइट फॉर योर एडिट, बट मोस्ट ऑफ द टाइम actually not most of the time, sometimes the director wins, sometimes the editor wins. It's like half and half. So that is why you never know कि the decision that has been taken, like you said कि वो नोलन की इंसेप्शन के एंड में वो जो स्टॉप स्पिन कर रहा है and it keeps spinning, it keeps spinning, it keeps spinning. Is it the editor's thought or is it Nolan's thought कि ये रखते हैं? What if Nolan had written कि we'll show it, pause it, cut it, but the editor was like no, let's keep people in the dark, let's keep it spinning. You don't know. So
actually इसका मैंने सुना भी है. I'm not sure how true is this, but from what I've read and from what I have heard कि it was actually the decision of the editor. The editor came and told him कि एक काम करते हैं, I'll just show you one cut with when I am just going black screen while the totem is spinning. Let me know what you think. And he was like, why didn't I think like this? यही रखते.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like most of the times, director don't have full vision. Like when I said full vision, what I mean is they don't have this exact moment-to-moment vision of how their film will be. ये scene के बाद, ये scene के बाद, ये scene के बाद, वो उनको नहीं पता है. Because they have not made it yet. They just shot it, right? उनको पूरा ऐसा विजन है कि मेरी फिल्म इस तरीके से बननी चाहिए, मेरी फिल्म ऐसे बनेगी. But they don't know exactly shots कैसे आएंगे या scenes कैसे आएंगे. That is the job. That is where editor comes in, and that is when this kind of ideas are born after reiterations. कि like ये इतना अच्छा बन रहा है, like कुछ missing है, ये करके देख लेते हैं. So इसीलिए editing के लिए थोड़ा time चाहिए. You need a lot of time because जो first time बन जाता है ना, वो तो तुमने जो लिखा है वो बना है. हाँ. अब इसको और अच्छा कैसे बना सकते हैं? Like ये तो ठीक है, ये अच्छा है. But और अच्छा करना है तो what are the possibilities we can do? Can we move these scenes around? Can we like bring this character earlier in the series? We don't know that. वो आजकल टाइम मिलता भी नहीं है. आजकल ऐसा है 2 महीने में चाहिए, फटाफट ये दे दो मेरे को. तो इसीलिए all of the things feel very generic, like one pattern, one direction, because it's like written that way.
Yeah.
That's my personal opinion.
You just mentioned कि ये जो कि सबको यही चाहिए कि 2 महीने में फटाफट दे दो. So this has been happening with the VFX industry. आपने पढ़ाई होगा. But when it comes to working as an editor in India, क्योंकि अभी जैसे मार्वल के जितने VFX डिपार्टमेंट्स हैं उनकी शायद न्यूज़ आई थी कि वो यूनियन बना रहे हैं अपना, ताकि उनको जो उनकी राइट्स हैं वो हमेशा मिले. as VFX artists. उनका जो काम है वो निकल कर आए, and they get the appropriate reward and recognition for the amount of work that they do. So as someone working in the Indian industry as an editor, are you offered enough time and recognition for your labor and dedication, और अभी या फिर अभी बहुत improvement होना बाकी है? There is miles to go when it comes to actually getting a proper credit for your work as an editor.
So credit तो मिलता है, no doubt. Like there is no such thing कि credit नहीं मिल रहा है. वो फिर वो जो internal politics चल रहा है, I don't know. I have not been part of it and I have never encountered it. I have always received appropriate credit. I have always received appropriate respect from my peers, from people in the production, from people who are hiring me. They know how important it is, my job, and you. So I have received appropriate respect, no doubt in that. When it comes to pay is still not at par, is what I feel. Like I have to, like जब तुम लोग ऐसा सुनते हो ना कि करोड़ों की पिक्चर बन गई, इतने करोड़ कमा लिए, एंड देन समथिंग लाइक के एडिटर को इतने लाख मिले. So when everyone is earning in crores and the editor is earning in lakhs, that pay disparity hasn't like gone entirely from the industry. It is improving. Like now people are warming up to things कि इतना तो पैसा देना ही पड़ेगा. You know, it is not like कि इतने में मिल जाएगा. And I can't tell you the exact numbers because every deal is different.
No,
it's not that I don't want to. It's just that every deal is different. So it's not like there's a pattern कि इतना ही मिलेगा. It is all on budget based. But pay wise, I think there is still discrepancies and disparities between different levels of editing, and it's like maybe they can come around with a plan because see how it is done is assistants and associates, they are hired on monthly basis.
Okay.
So they get payment monthly. While editors are hired on a project base. मतलब project based तो सभी होते हैं, but editors are hired in a percentage based payment schedule. While editors, associates and everyone are hired in monthly. Each महीने basically salaried समझ लो. Right. So when you add the money, no, so assistants and associates don't earn as much as an editor, right? Which is okay. It's good in a way, in a bad in a way. Good in a way is that they don't really have their name to be besmirched, right? If it's not a good one, like अगर ये edit अच्छा नहीं है, तो it's not gonna be on your name. It's gonna be the editor's name because he is the one. So that responsibility is big. Fixing your mistakes as an associate, knowing the content you are editing, all of that is a big responsibility. It's not like sorry.
No worries.
It's not a small thing to undertake. So I understand that kind of disparity. But then there is a lot of physical. जैसा अपन बोलते हैं ना कि जो फर्नीचर वाला होता है, राइट, उसको तो लंबर काट के एक अच्छा सोफा बनाना है, बट जो लकड़ हग्गे होते हैं जो पूरा दिन बैठ के एक झाड़ के ऊपर लगे पड़े हैं ताकि वो झाड़ गिरे, फिर वो झाड़ गिरने के बाद भी उसके छोटे छोटे टुकड़े करके फिर वो ऊपर से बार्क निकालना है, वो सारा काम बहुत फिजिकली हैवी है, राइट? इट इज वेरी फिजिकली हैवी एंड इट टेक्स योर एंटायर डे, बट यू डोंट गेट पेड इनफ फॉर इट, राइट? Like what, for example, if you're making a sofa of 2 lakhs in your home, right, you're paying at least 1 lakh to the furniture guy. Furniture guy बाकी के 1 lakh में से पूरा काम करवा रहा है, right? वो मिस्त्री को भी दे रहा है, वो लंबर जैक को भी दे रहा है, वो टिम्बर खरीदने का भी है, वो सब 1 लाख में ही हो रहा है. तो मैं उस तरीके से आई एम सेइंग कि जो हैवी वर्कलोड है about managing the data, making sure everything is right in its place and nothing is there, nothing is missing and stuff like that. वो सब mentally बहुत heavy toll है. Like you have to deal with a lot of people when you're calling, like you're calling the post production supervisor कि भाई ये data मेरे को नहीं मिला है या मेरे को log sheet नहीं मिला है, ये नहीं मिला है. Then the post production he says के talk to this AD continuity guy is like मेरे को नहीं, मैं बताता हूँ. Then वो नहीं बोलता है follow up लेने का. Like why? There needs to be a streamlined process. अगर edit आ रहा है तो मेरे को दे दो आज का footage, आ जाना चाहिए. बट वो नहीं है, तो वो सब काम बहुत करना पड़ता है टू प्रोक्योर द रॉ मटेरियल. उसके लिए आई फील लाइक कि असिस्टेंट्स को अभी भी कम मिल रहा है. एसोसिएट्स को आई थिंक इज अ नाइस इन बिटवीन पे. दे आर लाइक डिपेंडिंग ऑन द बजट ऑफ द फिल्म और द शो दे गेट नाइस, बट असिस्टेंट्स आई थिंक आर स्टिल स्ट्रगलिंग टू फाइंड गुड पे इन आवर इंडस्ट्री. बाहर की इंडस्ट्री में, सो यू नो दिस चैनल कॉल्ड दिस गाय एडिट्स.
या आई नो. Yes.
He once took an interview for David Fincher's assistant editor. Okay. वो उसके चैनल पे ही है. Watch it, very nice interview. Mank रिलीज हुई थी ना?
David Fincher की.
Yeah, Mank रिलीज हुई थी ना? वो टाइम पे he took this interview for this assistant editor, and that's where I learned that that guy has been doing assistant editing just for Fincher for 15 years. वो 15 years से सिर्फ असिस्टेंट है. Okay, which means I just from that one line I understood the disparity of between that industry and our industry. अपने इंडस्ट्री में कैसा है, इट्स प्रोजेक्ट बेस्ड के, लाइक मैंने कर लिया, हो गया, खत्म, मैं दूसरे के अंदर काम कर रहा हूँ. वहां पे if someone likes your work, they appreciate you, they value your work and they keep giving you work. Right? यहाँ पे you have to keep asking for work, you have to keep changing fields. Like अब मेरे को associate बनना है, अब मेरे को editor बनना है. But what I also learned from that information is that he chose to be an assistant. Okay, which means he loves his job as being an assistant. Which means that अगर तू वो assistant hire करेगा ना, तो तेरा कोई भी डेटा में कुछ भी गड़बड़ नहीं होगा. वो 15 साल से वो असिस्टेंट एडिटिंग कर रहा है. He's managing data, he's exporting data, he's importing data, he knows data, he knows software. अगर तेरे को गड़बड़ हो गई है, you can ask that guy, he will immediately tell you ये कर दो, वो कर दो. He has, of course, obvious सी बात है, he has troubleshoot a lot, he has done everything, and that means he loves his job because he's being valued and he's being paid well, which is not happening here. यहाँ पे immediately assistants को associate बनना है.
Okay.
So I think pay wise वही है.
Yeah, like you just mentioned, और ये होता भी है कि जैसे अगर हम क्रिस्टोफर नोलन की बात कर लें या फिर मार्टिन स्कॉर्सेसी की ही बात कर लें, तो मार्टिन स्कॉर्सेसी, मतलब व्हेन यू, अगर आप एडिटर की बात करो तो थेल्मा शूनमेकर, आई होप आई एम प्रोनाउंसिंग हर नेम करेक्टली, थेल्मा शूनमेकर का ही नाम आता है. और नोलन की बात कर लो तो जेनिफर लेम, जिन्होंने टेनेट भी एडिट करी, जिन्होंने और भी फिल्म्स एडिट करी उनकी, तो वो उनके साथ हमेशा ही काम करते रहते हैं, बिकॉज इट्स लाइक दे नो एग्जैक्टली व्हाट द डायरेक्टर विल थिंक, एंड मैं वैसा काम करके उनको दे सकता हूँ या दे सकती हूँ. तो ये तो यस, नाउ दैट यू आर सेइंग दिस, आई
वेवलेंथ मैच होती है डायरेक्टर और एडिटर की.
हाँ,
like for example we know the infamous combination of Nolan and Hans Zimmer, right?
Yes.
Like अगर वो recently he hasn't done music for him because he is doing for Dune and everything.
Yeah.
But like you know, if Hans Zimmer is doing music और Nolan की movie है, तो it is definitely going to be a visual and audio orgasm, right? Like you are going to be like, what is this music? Like, and
Yes.
you remember that, you remember, I don't know if you have read or heard, I think you might have, which is that Nolan once said that he just went to Zimmer and he said, this is the log line of my story. Just give me something, like give me music. And that's when Zimmer created Time, वो जो music है, Inception का. And Nolan, just hearing that music, he wrote this entire script. उसको वो music से inspiration मिला. So like they both drive each other, right?
Yes.
Which happens rarely in our industry.
Right, absolutely. शुरुआत में आपने मेंशन किया था कि जो एडिटर होता है उसकी जॉब बहुत हद तक शेफ की तरह ही होती है, कि मतलब जो उसका एक एलिवेशन होता है करियर का, वो शेफ की तरह ही शुरू होता है। कि विच रिमाइंडेड मी ऑफ दिस वेरी, एक वो कार्टून याद आ गया मुझे, वो पाव पाव गर्ल्स वाला, कि मिठास मसाला और सब कुछ अच्छा डाल।
हाँ,
बट
थोड़ी सी मिठास, थोड़ा सा।
हाँ, तो बट कभी ऐसा होता होगा कि केमिकल एक्स भी डल जाता है। सो उस
बट
सिचुएशंस
वही
में क्या होता
केमिकल
है?
एक्स, वो केमिकल एक्स ही जो तुमने एग्जांपल दिया ना नोलन वाला, कि उसके एडिटर का आइडिया था, वो केमिकल एक्स है। ये जो
हम्म।
आइडियाज है ना, जो डायरेक्टर के माइंड में नहीं आते भी, उसका फ्रेंकली स्पीकिंग टाइम नहीं है सोचने का। दैट इज व्हाई एडिटर इज सिटिंग हियर, क्योंकि उसके उसके सिर्फ पूरा दिन बैठ के यही सोचना है कि ये सीन को बेटर कैसे
हम्म।
करें। मैं
मैं
समटाइम्स
वैसे
रिमूव।
मैं वैसे इसमें पूछ रहा था कि, सॉरी टू इंटरप्ट, मैं वैसे भी पूछ रहा था कि केमिकल एक्स कभी कभी गड़बड़ भी कर जाता है। सो हैज इट एवर हैपेंड कि, आई नो लाइक इट्स समथिंग जो बिल्कुल नहीं होना चाहिए, बट अल्टीमेटली वी आर ह्यूमन बींग्स, कभी ना कभी कहीं ना कहीं छोटा बहुत एरर हो जाता है कि फुटेज गायब हो गई या ऑडियो में कुछ प्रॉब्लम आ गया, सिंक नहीं हो रहा, समथिंग लाइक दैट। तो ऐसी कोई सिचुएशन आई है, एंड हाउ डिड यू गाइज हैंडल दैट?
सो I will not mention this name or anything,
श्योर श्योर श्योर।
but so there is this recently, last year, this project came out, and it is completely my mistake. Okay, and I realized this very late. So what happened was, पूरा edit हो गया, सारे episodes edit हो गए, everything is done in ये वो, and then the editor uh, he went away for a vacation or something, so हो गया उसका काम। Now it was just my job remaining, which was like sitting with the, so associate का काम ये भी involve करता है कि you sit with the director to make changes, like छोटे
ओके।
मोटे changes है, you also do that, because उसमें editor का काम नहीं है ये, as an associate you should know how to edit it already. So अगर director बोल रहा है कि ये scene में थोड़ा ये changes कर लेते हैं, तो it is your job, it is not editor's job, वो बैठ के नहीं करेगा, unless it's a massive story change जो पूरा ही बदल दे रहा है। Even then, a lot of the times, what editors do is कि associate के साथ बिट के करवा देते हैं, and then they come over and they're like, ठीक है ये अच्छा लग रहा है, और then they watch it and then they discuss it with the director कि यार मेरे को तो अभी भी पुराना वाला कट ही मजा आ रहा है, ये वाला मजा नहीं आ रहा है, वो सब बातें होती है, बट वो जो चेंजेस करने हैं एसोसिएट कर। तो my was left, so I was doing changes with the director, stuff like that, and स्क्रिप्ट रीड कर रहे थे, वी आर लाइक जस्ट गोइंग टू द स्क्रिप्ट एंड गोइंग थ्रू द एपिसोड के जो जो लिखा है एटलीस्ट उसके करीब करीब चीजें तो हो रही है, because we changed a lot of things, we had changed the story, we had a lot of screenplay was changed on the edit because मजा नहीं आ रहा था, तो changes कर लिए थे। So we're going through the script, and then one scene comes and I'm like, because ये scene तो है ही नहीं, and I remember seeing the footage of this scene, right? And director of course knows that that scene is there because the shoot किया है, तो it's like अरे ये scene क्यों नहीं है? And I was flummoxed. I was like, what do I even do? Because this is a stage where things are already moving on to technical things. Like you are no longer thinking about, and also everybody, the producer, the channel, and everyone has seen the episodes and approved of it, right? And none of them know कि one scene गायब है, ठीक है? तो वो जब हुआ था तब मेरे होश उड़ गए थे, एंड आई डोंट agree to the methods I use, but I had to make up a lie कि like, oh वो तो हमने ऐसा सोचा कि this is not according to the script, मजा नहीं आ रहा है, because we already had done a lot of changes in screenplay, and I put like two and two together, and I was like कि मजा नहीं आ रहा है वो scene में, and then I edited that scene and I showed it to him, and he's like हाँ नहीं मजा आ रहा है, which was like it played well for me कि लाइक मैंने पहले क्लेम कर लिया, एक्चुअल में वो मजा ही नहीं आ रहा था, वो होगा नहीं होगा उसी उससे फर्क नहीं पड़ रहा था, तो खाली फोकट का ऐड करके ड्यूरेशन बढ़ाएगा मतलब नहीं है, which played well for me, but it gave me a heart attack. I had to, then I was like, should I tell my editor कि ऐसा गड़बड़ हुआ है? And then I'm like, no, you have to tell the truth. The editor has to know कि problems थे, right? फिर गाली खा लेने की और क्या यार, मतलब कैसी बात है कि सच्चाई तो बतानी ही है। फिर हम लोग एज अ क्रिएटर हम लोगों से छुपाए वो बात अलग है, बट अंदर अंदर सारी चीजें पता होनी चाहिए ना. इफ आई एम स्पीकिंग अ लाई एंड यू डोंट नो इट, हाउ विल यू लाई टू द पब्लिक वाला बात हो गया. तो फिर मैंने एडिटर को सब बता दिया, गाली भी खाई. मैंने बोला यार मेरे से गलती हो गई, ये वो सब किया. बट दैट डे आई स्टिल रिमेम्बर, आई जस्ट फेल्ट इट, द ह्यूमिलिएशन. एंड इट इज my fault. That scene was already sorted and done. It was in its timeline. I just had to edit it, which I didn't. I literally forgot to edit it. And you should not have. But like editor के पास सारे scenes सब जाना चाहिए. Or if you have omitted a scene, you should tell them कि मैंने ये omit किया है, ये वाला scene मैंने omit किया है, देख लो, मेरे reasons ये है. आपको अगर रखना है तो आप वापस रख सकते हो. But that was the incident that has happened. I don't know if I played well. Sorry, I adjusted well to it, but I have made sure that I will never uh, do that again. I now like stress check every time I have edited a scene. I'm like, okay, ये scene हो गया, screen scene number ये था, ये वाला script में यहाँ था. I check it every time. At one time that mistake happened, I couldn't. एंड यार जैसे तुमने बोला वैसे बहुत होता है, लाइक फुटेज नहीं आया होता है, पता नहीं होता है, या हमसे चला गया होता है, ऐसा इधर उधर रख दिया है. ये सब चीजें तो होती रहती है, ऑल गोइंग टू हैपन. बट फुटेज डिलीट हो गया है, दैट नेवर हैपन. एंड इफ दैट एवर हैपेंस, यू आर अ शिटी any editor, like assistant, associate, whatever you are a shitty editor. If the footage gets deleted, you cannot do that. That's like committing a crime, basically. Deleting of footage. Even if it's just an NG role, के ऐसा ऐसा हो गया कैमरा, never delete anything from the timeline, never.
Right. मतलब
वो
वहाँ पे
iron clad rule बोलते हैं ना, it's an iron clad rule to never delete anything.
कार्डिनल सिन कि वो करना नहीं है, कभी भी नहीं करना है. बिल्कुल बिल्कुल.
Jesus will not be happy.
Last question of this conversation, क्योंकि I hope कि we get to do a part 2 of this, because this is extremely...
I really like talking about it, so if you want, we'll do it part.
Excellent, man, because I am having a very good time, and I hope the audience watching also has a great time. So the last question for this...
Let's hope I'm not compromising my career.
Well, I cannot say anything to that, but yeah. But my very last question for this conversation is, so you are a creative professional, right? And every creative professional cannot be creative all the time. That is what we call block, कि writer's block हो गया या creative block हो गया है, कुछ दिमाग में नहीं आ रहा है, so stuck हो जाते हैं हम. So you as an editor, how do you deal with that? Like, do you have a playlist of scenes or movies or shows or something, a piece of edit, or just something कि जैसे for example मैं अगर एक personal चीज़ आपके साथ share करूँ तो I don't know why, but I have developed this very unusually amusing relationship with the film Mad Max Fury Road. क्योंकि जब मुझे कुछ वो लगता है ना कि यार कुछ ये हो रहा है वो हो रहा है, मैं पता नहीं क्यों वो फिल्म देखने लग जाता हूँ. एंड व्हेन आई वॉच दैट फिल्म, फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल आई एम एक्साइटेड AF, क्योंकि उसकी पेसिंग और पूरी वो फिल्म है ही वैसी. और उस फिल्म को देखने के बाद मुझे पता नहीं ऐसा क्यों लगता है, यार कुछ करना है लाइफ में, यार कुछ तो करना है. मतलब जॉर्ज मिलर इतना बुढ़ा हो गया फिर भी उसने ऐसी फिल्म बना दी, एंड अपनी वाइफ से एडिट करवाया जिसने जिंदगी में कभी एक्शन फिल्म नहीं एडिट करी, और उसको ऑस्कर भी मिल गया. सो एवरीथिंग इज पॉसिबल. सो डू यू हैव एनी फिल्म्स और शोज और एनीथिंग दैट मोटिवेट्स यू एंड gets you rid of your creative blocks in your journey?
Well, I don't have a particular thing like you said, which is like watching Mad Max. I don't have that. For me, ideas come and go.
Okay.
If I like edited, let's say I've edited a scene but it's not working, nobody's liking it, maza nahi aa raha, and I don't know what to do. A lot of times this happens. This is not a new thing for me. I guess that is why I'm not at an editor level yet, because it's like I cannot immediately come up with a solution ke ye kar dete wo kar dete, right? And for me, what happens is I go away from that scene. I'm like, यार इतना ही कर सकता हूँ. This is my limit. यही कर सकता है. But the next day, suddenly I get this idea के ये कुछ उस तरीके से भी कर सकते हैं, फटाफट ये कट कर सकते हैं, वो कर सकते हैं, stuff like that. Most of the time it doesn't work. It's like, but for me, how I edit is I want time. Which I generally don't get. I want time which is like कि मुझे आज सिर्फ यही सीन ही है और कुछ नहीं करना, उस तरीके का टाइम नहीं मिलता है. यू नीड अ लॉट ऑफ पेसिंग टू हैपन, यू नीड अ लॉट ऑफ थिंग्स टू डू, बिकॉज तुमको एक और बंदे को देना है जो उसको एडिट करेगा, तो उसके पास भी टाइम नहीं है, बिकॉज डायरेक्टर आके देखने वाला है सून. सो you do whatever best you can and give it to them. But if I ever get stuck, I am a gamer, so I play games, right? Either I play games or I watch esports. I watch a lot of esports. So I basically I just go away from the edit. I make sure that I'm not thinking about it, but I'm still stressing about it even when I'm playing the game or when I'm watching, because I know कि वो अच्छा नहीं है, वो मुझे अच्छा करना है. Even without any feedback, as an editor, you understand कि वो जो तुमने किया है ना उसमें मजा तो नहीं आ रहा, ठीक है, you need to change it. वो सेंस लाना, I don't know how everybody else's way is कि वो सेंस कैसे आता है, the sense of telling the story to the perfection, the sense of making this edit. For me, the sense comes in time कि like मेरे को पता है कि मेरे को आज मैं कितना भी सोचूं मेरे को नहीं आना, तो मैं गिव अप ही कर लेता हूँ, मैं नहीं सोचना ही नहीं, मैं कल सोचूंगा. कल सोचते, क्योंकि sometimes you know when you sleep and wake up you're fresh in your mind, you're thinking कि आज मैं जाके कुछ करता हूँ, and then you start thinking about the scene कि like ये scene ऐसे जा रहा था, ऐसे जा रहा था, ऐसे जा रहा था. I don't know, still don't know what to do, but right now you're fresher in your mind, so now you're iterating कि मैं भी ये scene ऐसे ऐसे कर लेता हूँ, वैसे वैसे कर लेता हूँ, तो शायद हो जाएगा, and then you go and attempt it. So you're actually making things work.
Right.
That way. For me, that's how the process works. But I don't think that process has a place in this industry, which is going at a very fast pace. Right. Okay. There is no space for my kind of thinking कि थोड़े दिन बाद मैं इसको edit करता हूँ, ऐसा कुछ time ही नहीं है इस चीज के लिए. And frankly, होना भी नहीं चाहिए, because you know every day you are working, you are spending money.
Yeah.
Like every day money is being spent on you, so it's not like कि तुमको टाइम पास करने के लिए टाइम मिल पैसे मिल रहे, you have to make work. So then you go over to another scene, you make another scene, edit another scene, you have some time left, then you start coming back to this scene, so to and fro करके कभी कभी वर्कआउट हो जाता है. But over the period of time, as an associate editor, what you have to do is get the best edit with the best footage you have to the editor. What I have understood is कि बाकी का काम एडिटर कर लेगा. Like कैसा है ना, मैं बताता हूँ, देखो, like this I learned through myself. I don't know if this is the thing.
Yeah.
Which is कि when I have to make the lineup and think about the edit, no, I can't do it really that well, or at least I need some time. But जब मेरे को कोई lineup बना के दे रहा है ना, so I already have this lineup in my space कि इतना है, इसको edit करना. So then I can do something better to it, like make it an edit. So I am thinking कि editor को भी वही help मिल रहा है, वही simplicity मिल रही है कि उसको पूरा edit मिल रहा है. So now he just have to use his creative brain and make के ये बराबर work नहीं कर रहा है, इसको और क्या क्या, उसको immediate, trust me, I have done this, so immediately ideas आने लगते हैं कि यार ये अच्छा नहीं है, तो ये ऐसा करेंगे मजा आएगा, ये immediately ideas, because you have not expended your brain yet. Like you're still, all the power is still here. You've not like used it to do anything. So इतना power है ना, तो automatically ideas आ रहा है. वो जब you're already drained by creating a lineup, you're already drained. उसके बाद फिर से सोचना कि इसके ऊपर मैं creatively क्या कर सकता हूँ, वो बहुत difficult है. मेरे लिए तो है. But there are a lot of people out there जो immediately डिफिकल्ट चीज आसानी से कर लेते हैं. जैसे हर्षित मैं कह रहा हूँ, आई हैव नेवर सीन हर्षित सिट मोर देन 2 or 3 days per episode with a director.
Okay.
Like he just does it. And उसका एडिट इतना अच्छा होता है कि वो डायरेक्टर कन्विंस हो जाता है कि हाँ ठीक है. Most of the time he gets convinced. It is just some of the time which is like कि director is very चिपकू के मेरे को ये सीन तो चाहिए ही चाहिए, ऐसे ही चाहिए, ठीक है, तब वो कर लेता है. अदरवाइज इट इज लाइक दैट. सो वैसे भी लोग हैं, और मेरे जैसे भी लोग हैं इंडस्ट्री में जो बहुत टाइम लेते हैं, बहुत ही करते हैं. So that is why I think my rise to being an editor is slow, because I am a slow person in general.
Okay.
I don't edit it really fast, but I like editing as an profession. It is some editing has a power which I think nobody else has, not even the director. The power to shape this story, which is like cutting the shots, creating the flow. The When you put a cut in the video, it just gives me this thrill. Like when I put a cut in this video clip, it just gives me this thrill. Okay, oh, I just cut it here. Then what should I put next? I'll put this shot next. And all of that thing is really thrilling. It's just, it is a feeling I don't think I'll ever get from anything else.
Right. Right. There are
So
so many
that's why
things.
I keep at it. I'm like, ठीक है, गालियाँ पड़ रही है, but still, this is fun. Like when you get praise for what you've done, it is just next level of validation. That's what I say. It's like अगर किसी को ये सीन पसंद आ गया ना, तो मैं तो सातवें आसमान पे ही पहुंच जाता हूँ कि यार मैंने किया ये सीन पसंद आ गया उसको, ये सीन लोग देखने वाले हैं.
Right. Right.
That is a different kind of feeling.
I think उस thrill को follow करना ही is what you call doing what you love. And I'm so glad that I got the chance to speak to you, जहाँ पे आपने बताया कि about something that you love doing, and I hope that you keep getting more and more opportunities in the industry like you have been getting. And I just hope that this is my attempt with this podcast, that I'm trying my best to reach more people like you. मतलब someday I want to talk to that best boy जिसका नाम मैं हर बार पढ़ता हूँ कि यार बेस्ट बॉय कौन है. So I want to know. मुझे शायद
there are a lot of new what I have recently realized is कि जब मैं credits देखता हूँ, there are a lot of new things that are coming. Like
yes,
there's like additional support supervisor, and I'm like, I don't know what that means. What did he do?
right. But nahin, this has been my attempt with this series of podcasts, and I'm also trying to get more and more people, because I will be doing these podcasts more in terms of frequency, क्योंकि अभी तक मैं video essays भी कर रहा था, वो भी आएंगे, but I really want to double down on this podcast, and I hope that I keep getting the opportunity to meet people like you. Thank you so much, Parth. It has been a fantastic discussion. बहुत चीजें सीखी हैं, and I hope कि इसका part 2 भी हम करेंगे whenever you have the time.
Yeah, sure.